Good evening. All right. So just hang on 1 second before I really get started. I'm going to play a video. And then we're going to talk about it. This is from the channel Secular Talk. He's a leftist. Duh. I'm sure you're more familiar with his channel than mine. But let's play a little bit of this.
And so now we know for sure there's a huge backlash over that. So we'll talk about that. We also have Trump's ex-lawyer comes out and tells the truth and shocks everybody. Wait until you hear the comparison that he makes when talking about Trump. You're not going to want to miss that. And then Kash Patel fails miserably to link Charlie Kirk shooter to any left-wing group. We have...
Okay, I'll buy that. I know the narrative is that, the right likes to say, it's always a leftist. Now, that being said, most of the, extreme violence as of recent has come from the right, barring the last mass shooting done by a transgender. Now, based on what I've read regarding the shooter, he grew up in a conservative. He grew up in a very conservative red state. He grew up in a Mormon family. Nobody's going to argue that. Nobody's going to argue that. He grew up around guns. We can't deny that. Now, what's also compelling is the fact that the shooter was also in a relationship with a trans. I'm not sure the trans man. I've seen different things. It was a trans person. We'll leave it at that, okay? So that's a clue that even though he grew up in a conservative, family in a conservative household, once he reached adulthood, he may have wanted to, defect, and go to the left. There's no definitive proof of that, but because, one, he hasn't voted in 2 years. Last election, he wasn't old enough to vote. I mean, he's only 22 years old. So he hasn't voted in 2 years. And hell, maybe even longer. So we have no definitive information on, which political party, that he supported. And I suspect, he was trying to keep his views on the DL, from his conservative family. That's just my honest opinion. This is not fact. This is my personal opinion on the shooter's beliefs. Versus his upbringing. Because we all have our upbringings. What type of family you're born into. Now, we can use mine as an example. Obviously, my dad usually votes Republican. As far as I remember, he's voted Republican. My mother has tended to vote a Democrat. As far as I can remember. My siblings, I come from a large family. I got 8 siblings. I don't fucking know which one votes for which, Especially since this past election, it's all but completely shattered my whole family. It's fucking divided in more ways than one, But enough about that. Now, conversely, some people have grown up in, a racist family. And chances are the offspring may date somebody outside their race and they get disowned by their family. I'm gonna exclude trash talk shows about that. Because that's just for entertainment. But I actually had a friend in my college days. He was a slam poet, and he was a mishmash. He was Cape Verdean and Irish. You could see elements of both in his appearance. Talking to him, the only connection he had with his Irish roots, was his mother, who was deceased. And, that side of that family, was very racist. So he tends to feel more connected to his Cape Verdean side of the family. So you get my point, and ironically, it seems like, the most racist people seem to be, Italians and Irish. So make it make sense. Probably even more so than many people of German descent. Although some people might argue that, considering World War II, Germans wanted to whiten everybody. I don't think they specified they had to be German, but they just wanted everybody to be white. But that's neither here nor there. But again, you could be raised a certain way, and sometimes people might question that way, whatever it may be. I do have yet to see somebody raised by a leftist family, and then they grow up being more conservative. I have yet to see that. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but let's play a little more of this clip.
It's basically official now that we're at war with Venezuela, and nobody seems to be talking about it. We have the MAGA border czar, Tom Homan, who looks like a giant piece of ham. He was caught on video taking a $50,000 cash bribe, and I got more than that. So don't go anywhere. You guys know the drill. Everybody, please do me a huge favor and subscribe to the channel. That helps out big time and costs you nothing. You could also support the show on Patreon. That also helps out. Remember, guys, I've never talked to an advertiser ever. I've never done an ad read. This show is funded by you guys. It's not funded by billionaires. It's not funded by PACs or foreign governments or anything like that. So thank you to everybody who supports the show on Patreon. We literally could not do that without you. So if you'd like to help out, the link is below.
Yeah, if I want to get people to subscribe to my Patreon, for the cost of a latte, I know you'd much rather buy the latte.
Again, it means the world. Thank you again. You can also support Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack, and you can go sub to the Corn's World YouTube channel where we do live Kyle and Corn episodes. We do one, or we try to do one every Monday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time.
I don't know how these people do it. I can only handle one platform, and this is it.
Oh, and by the way, Lilith told me to plug our Discord. There is a Secular Talk Discord. I'm going to have that just below me in the lineup of links there. You can take a look if you want to join the Discord community. So, all the hardcore Secular Talk enjoyers are part of that community. And if you'd like to join, you are more than welcome to do so. So, all right, guys, let's go ahead and dive into it here. So, yesterday we had Charlie Kirk's memorial. I believe it was in Arizona. And look, I'm just here to call balls and strikes. And the fact of the matter was that thing was packed. There were a million, trillion, zillion people there. There were people lined up for hours beforehand. And here's the thing, though. Kind of disturbing because a memorial is supposed to be like a solemn, somber, reflective event. And this was literally anything but that. This was like a WWE rally. It was like a far-right rally mixed with WWE antics. That's what it was. And so, first of all, I should point out, before Trump even went there, I believe he was like about to hop onto the helicopter to go to the plane to go there. And he was like, he said something along the lines of, yeah, Charlie passing away, it's a moment for reflecting. It's a moment for whatever. And that went mega viral on Twitter because that's classic Trump. Like, he could barely get himself to pretend to care for 2 seconds. Meanwhile, this guy, Charlie Kirk, dedicated his life to try to get Trump elected. So Erica Kirk, the wife, of course, came out and gave a speech. Now, it is noteworthy, though, none of the siblings gave speeches. None of the parents gave speeches. And why that is, I'll let you guys speculate. But Erica Kirk goes out there and gives a speech. And this is her entrance, guys. Watch this. the again, the WWE fireworks. Charlie liked those things, so therefore it's okay. Or, you're not looking for vengeance, you're not looking for revenge. Now, the speech she gave on TV before the memorial, that was quite a different story. That sounded like Stephen Miller basically wrote that speech up. But this one here, she said effectively look, I forgive him, right? And this is what Jesus teaches us to do. Any given moment, he's fucking clueless. Watch this. Rally. So here, any given moment, he's fucking clueless. Watch this. What is this, bro? What is that?
What the fuck is wrong?
I don't know. That's bizarre. All right, more. So during his fucking what's supposed to be like a eulogy of Charlie Kirk, he starts talking about the tariff thing, bro.
Just like Charlie and Erica made Turning Point hot, we are looking at a country that has the chance to attain a level like never before. Tariffs are making us rich again, richer than anybody ever thought was possible. And the only one challenging them are people that hate our country or foreign countries that are paying a price, because they did the same thing to us for years. They took advantage of us, but we're making money. We're becoming richer and richer, and we're taking care of our people better and better when we do that. And we can take care of other countries better and better. But
this is a fucking eulogy, bro. He's talking about the trade war.
We're doing unbelievably well. The tariffs have really been a hold. The election was big, but the tariffs, because of the election, came in. And remember, other nations do that to us. And Charlie understood that. He saw the money. He saw what was coming into our country, and we can use that for Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security.
He fucking cut all of those programs. Oh, my God. Again, eulogy. Charlie Kirk memorial event. And this is what he's doing.
All of these things that we fight so hard for, and that's exactly what's happening. The numbers are incredible.
All right, more. Again, at his eulogy, he says this.
And tomorrow we're going to have one of the biggest announcement, really medically, I think, in the history of our country. We're going to be doing it with Bobby and Oz and all of the professionals. I think you're going to find.
Look, even RFK, the look on RFK's face is like, hey, dog, why are you babbling about this? Ex-nay on the speech day. Like, this is not acceptable. You're supposed to be giving a eulogy. Talk about Charlie. Talk about Turning Point USA. Talk about how important it was to your victory. Talk about, what made him so special or whatever. Yeah, we got an amazing announcement tomorrow, medically. Some say the biggest announcement anybody's ever seen. Unbelievable.
I think we found an answer to autism. How about that? Autism tomorrow. We're going to be talking.
I think we found an answer to autism, is what the President of the United States said at Charlie Kirk's memorial service.
Fucked up, isn't it?
In the Oval Office in the White House about autism.
You're not going to be surprised to learn that the answer to autism that they found, they're now going to recommend that moms not take Tylenol when they're pregnant. And they're going to pretend like, oh, that's the cause of autism, full stop. If your mom pops a Tylenol when she's pregnant with you, you're more likely to have autism.
Within a certain food, that's going to be one of those things they just can't figure out the cause. It's going to be one thing. First, it was vaccines.
Fucking laughable. Even if they ban moms from, like, RFK run American science is low-key one of the most dangerous things Trump did. And here he is babbling about finding an answer for autism, which, by the way, a decent percentage of it is probably just fucking genetic, right? But, he found an answer to autism. This is the part which is probably the most disturbing, because Trump's going to do it in his little, jokey voice here, but he's fucking serious, and everybody should know that he's fucking serious when he says this. Listen.
He was a missionary with a noble spirit and a great, great purpose. He did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. That's where I disagreed with Charlie.
Let that sink in for a little bit.
I hate my opponent. And I don't want the best for them. I'm sorry. I am sorry, Erica. But now Erica can talk to me and the whole group, and maybe they can convince me that that's not right, but I can't stand my opponent. Charlie's angry. Look at that. He's angry at me now.
President of the United States. President of the United States. No, I hate my opponents. I don't want what's best for them. So, in other words, like literally more than half of the country that you're supposed to represent, you hate. Jesus Christ, what a petty, disgusting, grievance-filled, narcissistic, empty hole of a man that we're looking at here. All right, more. This dipshit, Don Jr., gets up there, and he starts talking, immediately makes it about himself. The apple really doesn't fall far from the tree, now does it?
I was going to say.
Immediately makes it about himself. Again, Charlie Kirk Memorial Service.
I'm not widely known for being a sentimental guy. Anyone who's seen me on social media knows I'm far more likely to crack a joke or get myself in trouble for posting some grossly inappropriate memes than I am to shed a tear. I know this because I've even gotten the call from that guy a couple times. You know, Don, you're getting a little aggressive on social media, Don. Relax.
Just astronomical levels of narcissism, man. But I haven't even gotten to the worst parts yet. This was the tone of the whole thing. So Stephen Miller came out and just flat out gave a speech that's from the Third Reich. Let's call it what it is. In fact, shout out to Jim Stewartson, who literally laid out there's parallels between Stephen Miller's speech and a speech made by Joseph Goebbels in 1932, all about how the storm is coming. That also, by the way, has links with QAnon, of course. The storm is coming, right? Stephen Miller goes out there and just gives an absolute horror show of a speech. We're the good guys, they're the bad guys, we're virtuous, they're nothing. We must defeat them no matter what. Like, this is, again, at a memorial service, this is what they're doing. They turned it into a far-right hate rally. Here we go, watch.
The storm whispers to the warrior that you cannot withstand my strength.
The storm.
And the warrior whispers back, I am the storm. Erica is the storm. We are the storm. And our enemies cannot comprehend our strength, our determination, our resolve, our passion. Our lineage and our legacy hails back to Athens, to Rome, to Philadelphia, to Monticello. Our ancestors built the cities. They produced the art and architecture. They built the industry. Erica stands on the shoulders of thousands of years of warriors, of women who raised up families, raised up city, raised up industry, raised up civilization, who pulled us out of the caves and the darkness into the light. The light will defeat the dark. We will prevail over the forces of wickedness and evil. They cannot imagine what they have awakened.
You know, he talks like it's the left and it's the Democrats that just started multiple new wars. That's whatsoever.
Well, they do riot.
Okay,
so they do riot and actually destroy shit when they don't get their way. So I'm going to disagree with this gentleman here, the secular talk guy.
I mean, the whole speech is terrifying. It is terrifying.
Cannot conceive of the army that they have arisen in all of us. Because we stand for what is good, what is virtuous, what is noble. And to those trying to incite violence against us, those trying to foment hatred against us, what do you have? You have nothing. You are nothing. You are wickedness, you are jealousy, you are envy, you are hatred. You are nothing. You can build nothing. You can produce nothing. You can create nothing. We are the ones who build. We
I'm sure Charlie Kirk is rolling in his grave.
are the ones who create. We are the ones who lift up humanity. You thought you could kill Charlie Kirk? You have made him immortal. You have immortalized Charlie Kirk. And now millions will carry on his legacy.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. There is zero ambiguity here. And you got Elon Musk tweeting like a cartoon villain where he's acting like, you know, basically borderline incitement to violence is what we've seen from so many of these people. And the message is clear. If you disagree with us, you're not really American. You don't really count. You're evil. You're terrible. And, you know, you get what you have coming to you. You get what you have coming to you. But I'll end on this note here. So Tucker gave a speech and listen to what he says. He makes a comparison here. He compares Charlie Kirk to Jesus, but the undertones are also quite interesting. Listen.
Ultimately, he was a Christian evangelist. And it actually reminds me of my favorite story ever. So it's about 2,000 years ago in Jerusalem, and Jesus shows up and he starts talking about the people in power, and he starts doing the worst thing that you can do, which is telling the truth about people, and they hate it, and they just go bonkers. They hate it, and they become obsessed with making him stop. This guy's got to stop talking. We've got to shut this guy up. And I can just sort of picture the scene in a lamplit room with a bunch of guys sitting around eating hummus, thinking about, what do we do about this guy telling the truth about us? We must make him stop talking. And there's always one guy with the bright idea, and I can just hear him say, I've got an idea, why don't we just kill him? That'll shut him up. That'll fix the problem. It doesn't work that way.
So not only is it comparing Charlie Kirk to Jesus Christ, but also the not so subtle undertone there is, was he killed by the Jews? Was he killed by Israelis? Just asking questions.
I wouldn't know. Neither one of us were there.
And then if he gets pressed on that, he'll retreat to, no, I wasn't saying that. I was just comparing Charlie to Jesus. And what, are you against me comparing Charlie to Jesus? He was a Christian evangelist. He was just going around telling the truth. How dare you besmirch Charlie's legacy like that?
All right, so I've played enough clips. Now, let's talk a little bit about this. All right, we are living in some really fucking dark times, and the the people in office, they're basically turning us into a fascist nation. But I'm going to be honest. It doesn't matter who's in office. I'm a centrist. I am neither right nor left. I'm a U.S. citizen. I mean, before this, it was the left policing everybody. You know, over some of the stupidest shit. You know, pronouns and all that. But because the right is in office, you know, it's predominantly Republican Congress, so you know, that's just the way it is, and they're too afraid to stand up. They're too afraid to do anything about it. I don't know why, because there's more of them than there is of the president, and the president only has, you know, as we were taught in history, the way the government works is the checks and balances. The president only has, you know, limited amounts of power. And, you know, what I think is, you know, really going on is he wants to see both the left and the right so divided, they don't even want to talk to each other. And we've been seeing this, you know, in you know, personal lives, professional lives, you know, the whole doxing thing, you know, which I've covered in some of my other videos, you know, and, you know, now it's people on the right, you know, doxing people on the left for, you know, poking fun of Charlie Kirk's death. Before, you know, it would be, you know, people on the left, you know, trying to get people, you know, who lean to the right fired from their jobs, you know. So it's basically a fucking cesspool. That's basically what it is. It's a fucking cesspool. You know, neither side can really get along or try to reason with the other side. And, you know, again, you know, well, I'm going to make it clear, you know, there was a lot of stuff Charlie Kirk said I didn't agree with. You know, in fact, I'd probably say the majority of it. But, you know, I know people on the left like to say, you know, it's like total hate speech, but, you know, and they could be right. You know, maybe, you know, in his conscience, you know, maybe he might have actually hated LGBTQ. We don't fucking know. I mean, you know, I can't think of one example where he said that, we should get rid of him, Well, the one thing I will buy, I will buy that, from the left regarding the what he said about the civil rights movement. I will buy that because it was actually said, and I heard it myself, so I can't deny that. Much like the certain amount of gun deaths, so the rest of us can have that right. It was said, I heard it myself. So yeah, there's certain things that were said that probably shouldn't have been said, whatever. But he's just a random person, using his First Amendment right, just like everybody else can use theirs. You don't have to agree with it, but regardless of who's in office, all of our thoughts are going to be policed. And that's why you see all this stuff like, people getting fired from their jobs. But, I've talked about enough in some other videos, but, the fact that, let me stop sharing the screen, but, the fact that Trump always has to make everything about himself just kind of makes me wonder, why in the fuck would people, why the fuck would people vote for him? Were there some policies that they liked that Trump was going to do? I mean, in all fairness, people vote for people, based on their policies, not because they like the person. That's usually how it's been. Obviously, the way he threw a hissy fit during the loss of the 2020 election, that just basically made Trump definitely a hard no for me. When was the last time anybody threw a big hissy fit over losing an election? I've never seen it. I've never seen that. I mean, the closest I've seen to that, and that was only the candidate, himself. It wasn't like, people on the left, rioting, not that I know of. It was the 2000 election between younger Bush and Al Gore, and Al Gore pretty much may have been hurting his own campaign. And let's not mention, the whole voting ballots in Florida where you count votes counted and counted and counted and counted. And, obviously that election, much like 2016, correct me if I'm wrong, but, Gore got the popular vote, but not the electoral, which is a whole other topic in of itself for another time. But, no matter who's in office, I suspect they always want to make it about themselves. And, Clinton may have killed her campaign, with the whole Trump supporters are deplorables. I don't think she's actually that far off, the way things are going now. But, and I know, she also got the popular vote, but not the electoral. And, and she conceded, so I don't know what the fuck was up with that, but whatever. You can't go back in time, but, this is basically the president just making everything all about himself and not for the people. And honestly, I don't have an answer as to, what it's going to take to restructure, our government to work for the people, because they're supposed to be working for us, not us for them. Anyhow, I'll talk to you.